Good morning, everyone, and welcome to How to Respond to an Invitation to Bid. We're very glad to see you all here, and we appreciate your interest in doing business with the state of Louisiana. So we'd like to take a moment to introduce ourselves. My name is Lynn Godwin, and I'm a manager here with the Office of State Procurement.
And my name is Amy Vincent, and I'm also a manager with the Office of State Procurement.
So today we're going to be discussing how to respond to an invitation to bid. So let's take a look at an overview of the topics we'll be covering. We're going to explain what exactly is an invitation to bid. We're going to talk about LPAC, which is our Louisiana Procurement and Contract Network. We're going to go through the entire bid document and help you to understand the bid document and all the attachments. We're going to discuss addenda, what those are and when they are posted. We're going to go over in detail all the different ways that you can submit a bid to our office. We're going to discuss bid openings and how to attend. We're going to go through some common mistakes that vendors often make on bids that end up causing their bid to be disqualified. But we're also going to go over some important tips on how to submit a successful bid. We're going to let you know who to call depending on the type of question that you have. And we're going to give you some really good resources that you can use as reference, especially if you're a new vendor. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll have an opportunity for questions. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, please jot them down or type them in the chat, and then we will go over those at the end of the presentation. So we have a lot of information to get through. So first off, what is an invitation to bid? Well, the official definition is all documents, whether attached or incorporated by reference, utilized for soliciting bids in accordance with the procedures set forth in Louisiana Revised Statutes. Louisiana law says that when state contracts are not used and no extraordinary circumstances apply, such as a special exemption, sole source, or emergency procurement, and the purchase is greater than $25,000, then competitive sealed bidding should be used. Competitive sealed bidding is a method that uses formal advertising in order to solicit bids from a variety of bidders to capture the best price. Bid, solicitation, ITB, RFX, you will hear us refer to all of these terms interchangeably, and they all mean the same thing. So, all bids conducted by OSP are posted to LPAC. Well, what exactly is LPAC? It is the Louisiana Procurement and Contract Network, and it is a complete listing of bids by department, by commodity, or by specific bid number. Complete documents can be viewed in PDF format, and those ITBs of interest to a bidder can be printed and submitted. Registered vendors receive immediate email notification each time an ITB or an addendum is posted for a commodity for which you have registered. Award information showing the successful vendor or vendors and their award total is posted to LPAC once a bid is awarded. However, do note that state contract awards will not have the dollar amount posted because these are typically unknown quantities. LPAC is available 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, so you can log in at any time to see the information found there. There are various ways to search for an ITB on LPAC. The first is by category, if you wish to see all current bids posted for a particular commodity. You can see here that it shows the number of bids posted currently under each category. Clicking on one of them will bring you to a detailed listing of each bid in that category. Another way to search is by department. Click state procurement to see all bids posted by our office. You can also use Control F to search and find by title once you're on the listing page for OSP. Search for open bids allows you to use these drop-downs to search by department and category, and you can then even further narrow your search by date ranges and keywords if you like. This will pull up any currently active bids meeting your search criteria. If you already know the RFX number, you can search for it directly by clicking on Search by Bid Number and then entering the RFX number in the box and clicking Search. If you are registered for a particular commodity and a bid is posted for it, this is how the email will look when it is sent to you. Your company may have notifications sent to more than one email address, and this would be set up in your vendor registration. Make sure that your email addresses are correct in your vendor profile or you won't receive these notifications. It is each vendor's responsibility to make sure that your email addresses are entered correctly on your registration and that you choose all the commodity codes that you're interested in receiving bid notifications for. We do recommend reviewing your vendor registration profile regularly to make sure that all of the information is accurate and up to date. If people leave or switch positions, all of that needs to be updated in the system. OSP cannot update a vendor's profile. This is what a LPAC posting looks like. The RFX number is listed on the far left under bid number, but this is not a link. To view the RFX, click on the same number listed as original, right under the RFX title in the description column. This link will open up the RFX as a PDF document for viewing and/or printing. All attachments listed should also be opened, viewed, and printed. The bid opening date and time are listed to the right. All times are Central Time Zone. Bid opening means that this is the date and time that bids will be opened and read. In other words, you must have your bid submitted prior to this date and time in order for it to be considered. On the second example, notice that the title is in red. This means that this is for a statewide contract. Also notice that this bid has had an addendum posted. This means that something changed after the bid was originally posted. We'll discuss this in more detail a little bit later on.
So, once you've clicked on the RFX and opened up the PDF, this is what the front page will look like. The bid opening date and time are shown here. OSP's address and the buyer contact information is found here. This is the person at OSP who is handling this bid and who you should contact if you have any questions about this particular bid. The ship to address indicates the agency where the product will be shipped or the service will be performed. If there are multiple addresses, they will be listed elsewhere in the bid. This is where you will list your vendor number, which is assigned to you when you register in LeGov. It is very helpful to OSP if you remember to enter this number on your bid document. Your company name and address should be entered here, and it should match how you are registered in LeGov. If your company address has changed since you registered, it should be updated on your registration in LeGov as soon as possible. Please remember that any PO that gets awarded to your company will print with the registered address in our system, and OSP cannot update this information. You, as a vendor, must do so. If a bid is available for online bidding, this link will take you to our LeGov system if you do wish to submit your bid online. We will cover this step in detail a little later in this presentation. So if you are submitting a bid online and you receive hard stop errors and the error message contains the word attributes, this means you haven't answered these mandatory questions. The questions are found in LeGov under RFX information on the Questions tab, and we'll show you this when we cover online bid submittals. But this is just a preview of how it'll look on the PDF document. Every bid must be signed to be valid. Down here at the bottom of the first page is where you will sign the bid and enter your contact information, including phone number, email address, your title, and the date. Your printed name goes under Name of Bidder on the right. This should be the printed name of the person signing the bid, in case we cannot read the signature on the left, not the name of the company again, which is listed at the top of the page. Note that signature authority is needed for all bids for a statewide or agency term contracts or for any bids exceeding $25,000. It is not needed for fax bids. Signature authority can be verified by one of several ways. One, when you register in LeGov, there is a signature authority box that can be checked that gives the person listed the authority to sign the bid. Second, the person can be listed as an officer of the company on the Secretary of State website, corporate registration. Or third, you can furnish a copy of a corporate resolution or a memo on company letterhead from a company officer granting the person who is signing the bid signature authority. The section of the RFX below the title is RFX text and contains general information regarding the bid that is important to read and understand. We generally refer to it as header text, and it may include information such as the dates of the contract term if it is to establish an ongoing contract. If there is a site visit required, or if there are any special licensing requirements, it'll state what attachments are included with this bid. This is also where you can find a link to the vendor registration portal and a Zoom link for the bid opening when bids will be read aloud. After the header text, this is where the line items are listed. The item description is one place where specifications can be found on some bids. This section will list the quantity and unit of measure and give vendors a space to enter their unit bid price and their extended price. The quantity times your unit price should always equal your extended amount. Note that in the event of a mathematical error, the unit price governs. Bid prices cannot be changed once the bid opening date has passed. Your bid prices must include freight charges and any taxes the bidder is responsible for paying. State agencies are tax exempt, so vendors, you cannot add taxes to any invoice. This slide is just a few examples of the types of units of measures you may see on a bid. Your pricing should always be submitted per the unit of measure shown on the bid. A full list of the various units of measures used in LeGov can be found on the OSP website under Vendor Resources. So here are some examples of different types of unit of measures used on bids. So for the first example, white jersey material is the specification, requesting 5,000 as the quantity and pounds as the unit of measure. So you would bid price per pound. For the second example, 50 each LED light fixtures, so you would bid price per each. For the third example, case is the unit of measure. The item description indicates the quantity per case that the agency based their specs on. On most bids, slight variations of case packaging will be accepted, but you should clearly indicate on your bid if your packaging is different than what is listed on the item. And for the fourth example, for most construction-type bids, the unit of measure used is one job. This means bidders should include all labor and materials needed to fully complete the job as a lump sum bid. Make sure to read the line item description carefully. In some cases, separate price sheets are attached, and there will be a note stating pricing should only be filled out on the attached document, such as you see here in the example. These are typically an Excel spreadsheet. For almost all state contracts, pricing will be submitted on a price sheet, not on a line item on the RFX. You must remember to attach the price sheet to your bid if submitting online, or include it if you're mailing your bid. After all the line items on the RFX are several pages of boilerplate language titled Instruction to Bidders. The boilerplate language is standard terms and conditions that apply to all bids. These don't change very often, but any vendor has not read them before or is unfamiliar with them should definitely take the time to read them, as they are legally binding and often come into play if there's a question regarding a legal aspect of the bid. Special terms and conditions are in some cases standard T's and C's or additional T's and C's that are specific to a particular bid and or included as separate attachments. They take precedence, in other words, govern over the boilerplate language if there is a conflict.
So, all of those things that we were discussing were things we wanted to bring up regarding the RFX itself when you open up the PDF. Now we're going to jump back to that LPAC posting and touch on the attachments found there. We want to again stress that it is very important that you view all of the attachments included with a bid. Some of the subject matter typically found in the standard types of attachments would be special terms and conditions, specifications, and online bidding instructions, such as you see here. However, do note that there can be many more types of attachments than this. These are just some of the most common. The special or standard terms and conditions govern over the boilerplate. Almost every bid posted by OSP will have an attachment A, which can be listed as either special terms and conditions or standard terms and conditions. And like we said, they will govern over the boilerplate, but only if there is a conflict. Some of the typical clauses included in the additional T's and C's would be bid delivery instructions, insurance requirements, any required documents such as bonds, certifications, licenses, etc., if there are any samples needed and the instructions on how to submit those, and payment and invoice information. Please note that if you take any exceptions to the state's terms and conditions, it could possibly disqualify your bid. Some examples of other types of attachments that you may see on a bid are the mandatory job site certification form. This is the signed certification form that confirms that you have visited the job site if that is a requirement for that particular bid, and you are familiar with all of the conditions surrounding fulfillment of the specifications for this project. You must bring this form with you to the job site visit, and the agency representative will sign the form confirming that you attended. Examples of the types of bids this is found on are construction work, janitorial and grounds maintenance, and security guard service, to name a few. Drawings, diagrams, and maps. These are less common but necessary on some bids for clarification purposes. The price sheet. As mentioned,
I found this on the web.
Sorry, Siri wanted to jump in. As mentioned before, almost all state contracts and agency term contracts do not usually have pricing entered on the RFX itself. There will be a price sheet attachment, typically in Excel format, sometimes PDF, for you to enter pricing. These price sheets will often also contain the item description or specifications. Bid pricing must be entered here and returned with your bid. So we just mentioned that one thing sometimes found in a bid's terms and conditions is a list of any special licenses or certifications needed in order to submit a bid on that particular RFX. Let's take a look at some of the more commonly seen ones. For example, an equipment maintenance and repair contract. You may need to be a licensed HVAC service technician to bid on an HVAC maintenance contract. Security guards are required to be licensed by the Louisiana State Board of Private Security Examiners. For a labor and materials or construction job, you'll need a contractor's license for whatever specialty is needed for that job, such as building, electrical, plumbing, etc. Grounds maintenance, you must be licensed with the Louisiana Department of Agriculture and the Louisiana Horticulture Commission for ground owner, operator, and commercial pesticide application. Medical personnel. You would typically need to be a registered nurse or a licensed practical nurse for medical staffing contracts. And for vehicle bids, you would need to be a licensed motor vehicle dealer. These are just some of the more commonly required licenses and certifications found in bids. Always be sure to read through the specifications and terms and conditions carefully to see if any of these specialty licenses or certifications are needed. Now we're going to briefly touch on what is meant when we say bid specs or specifications. The formal definition of a specification is any written description of the physical, functional, or performance characteristic of an item, or the nature of a supply, a service, a construction job, or a major repair. It may include a description of any necessary requirements for such things as inspecting, testing, training, or preparing a supply, a service, or a major repair for delivery to or installation at an agency. Equivalent brands and models from what are listed on the bid will usually be accepted unless the bid specifically states this bid is proprietary or no other brands will be acceptable or similar language. If a bid is not proprietary, vendors may bid equivalents meeting or exceeding the written specifications. Most bids will state or equal within the description. Vendors sometimes ask if they can bid alternates, meaning more than one brand and model on the same bid proposal. The answer is yes, unless it is a proprietary or brand name bid. However, each brand and model and price must be clearly identified so that it can be understood what you're bidding for each line and the corresponding price for that alternate. Also, any alternates must meet or exceed the minimum specifications as outlined in the bid, or they will not be considered. Remember, shall means it is imperative, may is permissive, should is desirable, and means it must have both or multiples, and or means either is acceptable. These are all words frequently used in a bid specification. The most important takeaway on this slide is that if any feature, service, specification, or documentation requirement on a bid is listed as shall or must, then any bid that does not meet those requirements will be disqualified. So be sure to pay close attention to these types of words. Sometimes the necessity arises after a bid has been posted to issue a formal written change known as an addendum, modifying the solicitation in some way. For example, a bid opening date change, a specification change, vendor question and answers after a site visit, or a bid cancellation, etc. The addendums will always be posted to LPAC in numerical order underneath the original RFX posting. When an addendum is done, the buyer only posts to LPAC the revised attachments, if applicable. If the attachments are not changed, they can still be viewed on the original bid post. Note on this example, attachment B is being replaced on the addendum, so you would want to be sure to view that version, not the one on the original post. If the addendum is for something simple, such as just extending the bid opening date, the information will only be listed on the front page of the RFX in the header text, and you do not need to return anything acknowledging that sort of addendum. However, if the addendum involves something more detailed, such as specification changes or revising one of the attachments, the front of the RFX will direct you to an addendum attachment, which will explain exactly what was changed on the bid. If there is an addendum attachment, it should be signed and returned with your bid. If you have already submitted your bid, you should still sign and return the addendum. Only one section should be signed. Either you are not changing your bid, so you should sign the top section, or you do need to revise your original bid, then you would sign the bottom section. If the addendum does cause you to revise your bid, the signed addendum, along with any changes to your bid, must be submitted prior to the bid opening date and time. You will often see language in a bid that says, the award will be made to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So what does that mean exactly? So, a responsive bidder is one who is bidding according to spec, has filled out all of the bid documents properly, and complied with all the necessary technical requirements of the bid process, including submitting the bid timely, sending all the required documents, etc. A responsible bidder means that your company is both qualified and fully capable of either performing the required services or furnishing the correct product. For example, even though we encourage small businesses, if you have a one-person cleaning business, you should probably not submit a bid to provide biweekly janitorial service to a 10-story state office building.
We are now going to discuss the different ways that you, as a vendor, can submit your bid to our office. It is important to remember that late bids are not accepted under any circumstances. This includes traffic, weather, computer issues, the internet being slow or down, or courier service arriving late. All bids must be received at the specified location by the bid opening date and time listed on the bid document. This applies to both sealed, online, and fax bids. This is why we caution vendors to never wait until the last minute to submit a bid in any format, because there are no exceptions. This is a reminder of where our physical bid submittal address is located on the RFX. Note that we no longer have a P.O. box as an option, as there were issues with our office receiving bids sent to the P.O. Box in a timely manner. The first way to submit a bid is by U.S. mail or courier service such as FedEx, UPS, etc., to be delivered to our physical address. If using a courier service, keep in mind that guaranteed overnight delivery or before 10 a.m. is not always 100% guarantee and should not be relied on, especially in the current world situation due to COVID. So be sure you mail your bid in enough time to ensure it arrives by the bid opening date. If submitting a bid by mail or personal courier, always mark the outside of your bid envelope with the ORFX number and the bid opening date and time. Your company name should also appear on the outside of the envelope. Since these are sealed bids, they should not have to be opened prior to the bid opening date and time, so we must have this information on the outside of the envelope in order to know where to file the bid and make sure that it gets open on the proper day and time. Our building does require all visitors to check in with security, so if you are coming to drop off a bid, please make sure you allow time for that. Some low-dollar bids can be submitted by fax. The fax number will be listed here on the ORFX. Note that fax bids can usually also be submitted as an online bid. So in those cases, you have an option of submitting it either way. Or as always, it can be mailed or physically dropped off. The statement listing that the ORFX is a fax bid will be listed in several places on the front of the ORFX. The reason for this emphasis is if a bid does not have this language on it, that means it will not be accepted by fax. We're repeating this information here for emphasis. Look for the fax bid information on the ORFX. If you don't see it clearly indicated, then you cannot submit that bid by fax. It will be disqualified if you do so. Although there are no public bid openings for fax bids, the bid award results will be posted to LAPAC, just as all of our other bids are. Remember that fax machines can only print one bid at a time, and the closer it gets to the bid opening time, the busier the machine will be. So again, don't wait until the last minute or your bid may arrive late. Occasionally, OSP will also conduct bids by reverse auctions. Just like fax bids, these are clearly identified on the front of the ORFX. In this instance, the online response link will take you to the reverse auction portal, not to the regular online bidding site. The header text on the front page of the ORFX will also clearly identify the bid as a reverse auction. Reverse auctions are posted to LAPAC and emailed to vendors registered in that commodity in the same manner as all other bids. There will be a note in the description on LAPAC that states reverse auction. There will also be an attachment to the bid with detailed instructions regarding how to submit your bid. So, what is a reverse auction? It is a competitive online solicitation process in which vendors compete against each other online in real time in an open and interactive environment. The easiest way to explain it is like a reverse eBay. The state will award to the lowest bidder who meets the specs at the end of the auction instead of the highest bidder, like on eBay. Bidders must use the reverse auction process in order to participate in one of these bids, and bids submitted in any other form will not be accepted. Reverse auctions do not have public bid openings. Vendors can contact the buyer after the auction closes to find out the results. They do not post to LAPAC because the auction does not interface with our LaGov system in the same way that a normal bid does. So this is how a reverse auction will look when it is posted to LAPAC. Notice the description begins with reverse auction, and attachment D is the reverse auction bidder instructions instead of online bidding instructions. The bidding instructions will walk you through a step-by-step on how to submit your price in the live auction. At this time, emailed bids are not accepted under any circumstances. That's not to say this will never change, but for right now, we do not accept them. Your bid will be disqualified if it is sent this way.
So we'll now give you a step-by-step overview of how to submit your bid online. If an ITB can be submitted online, there will be a link provided on the front page of the ITB, and online bidding instructions will be attached to the bid in LAPAC. Note that bidders must be a registered vendor in the state's LaGov system in order to submit an online bid, and that is a free process. Also, please keep in mind that bidders who choose to respond online via the vendor portal are asked to not duplicate and submit a written bid as well. Step-by-step instructions are included as an attachment on LAPAC on every RFX that is posted as an online bid. When you click on the RFX number, it will open up the bid document. So if online bidding is available for an RFX, that information will be indicated on the first page of the RFX. Clicking the online bid response link will take you to the online bidding portal. In the online portal, you will be prompted to enter your LaGov vendor ID and password. Note that your ID and password were created and activated during your vendor registration process in the LaGov vendor portal site. If you have not registered in LaGov, go back to the RFX bid invitation and click the link to the LaGov vendor registration site to complete your registration. This is, again, a free process. Once you've logged in, the bid invitation, or RFX, is displayed. Click the Register button at the top of the screen. If you don't see a Register button, then you are already registered for this solicitation and you can move on to the next step. Next, you will click the Create Response button at the top of the screen. Your RFX response number is displayed at the top of the screen, starting with a 4000 number, such as you see here, Create RFX Response, and it gives you that number. Before proceeding any further, you will need to read the notice and check the box to accept the terms. In short, all of this language here means that you are verifying that you have signature authority for your company, and therefore you are authorized to sign and submit bids for your company. The next step is to upload any attachments that you need to add to the RFX. You will click on the tab Notes and Attachments, and then under Attachments, click Add Attachment and upload each document that you need. Some examples of attachments you may need would be price sheets, product literature, licenses and certifications, job site visit forms, etc. If a price sheet is attached to the bid invitation, then you will need to enter the prices only on that price sheet, not on each line item. This is generally used on state contracts, as we've mentioned, and will be in the form of either an Excel or a PDF document, which you will then return as an attachment to your bid. If there is no price sheet on that bid, then you will need to enter pricing for each line item that you wish to bid on. Click the Items tab near the top of the screen to view the lines. Each line of the bid invitation is displayed. Select the first line by clicking on the gray box to the left of the line number, then select the Details button. And again, this is if there is not a price sheet attached, so you're required to enter your price on each line on the Items tab. The Details screen showing item basic data is where your bid price and quoted delivery days after receipt of order are to be entered. Be sure to note the unit of measure for the price to be quoted in order to be certain that your price that you're submitting is per that unit of measure. This is very important during the evaluation process so that we are able to compare apples to apples. Your price should always be submitted per the unit of measure that's being requested. After entering pricing for all the line items that you're bidding on, the next step is to answer the mandatory questions. Click on the Questions tab located under the RFX Information tab. Answer each of the questions presented. Questions with a red star are required and must be answered. Note that earlier in the presentation we mentioned that if you receive a hard stop error when submitting your online bid and the error says something about attributes, this is the screen that needs to be completed. And the red asterisk are the questions are the ones that will give you a hard stop if they're not answered. So for example, the first two questions here are, have you reviewed all attachments to the bid invitation and answered all questions? And number two, have you attached or included all required files to the bid response? We do encourage you to answer all questions that apply, whether they're mandatory or not, because they can be helpful in the evaluation of the bid. And questions can differ from bid to bid, other than some standard ones. So be sure to read each one on every bid. Once all notes and attachments are reviewed, all questions are answered, and all prices are entered, click the Check button at the top of the page. The following message will appear if there are no errors. So that's what you want to see. Once this message appears, you are ready to submit your bid. Click the Submit button at the top of the page to submit your bid response. A message will be presented with the bid response number showing that it has been submitted. Note that if there are any red error messages, they must be cleared before the bid response can be submitted.
We'll now go over some of the most frequently asked questions that we receive from vendors regarding online bidding. So the first question, nothing happens when I click on the online bid response link on the RFX in LAPAC. You want to make sure your pop-up blockers are turned off in your browser security settings. Next question. I'm unable to log in after clicking on the online bid response link. Your password may be locked. This is the information to contact our vendor help desk, phone number, and the email address. I've logged in, but do not have a register button. Either you were added to the bid by the agency as a suggested vendor, in which case you can go directly to your create response, or you have already registered for this bid. If you've previously registered, you should have a Create Response button. So if I've logged in and I'm registered, but I do not have a Create Response button, a response has already been created. You're going to want to look for your response number at the top of the screen. It's in blue, and it starts with 4, the number 4, followed by 4 zeros. I'm trying to create a response, but I am getting an error message saying a response for this RFX is already being created. So that means you've probably already clicked the Create Response button, but the system may have timed you out and has not refreshed. So try logging out, wait an average of 30 minutes, and try again. When you do that, look for your response number. Again, it's going to be at the top of the screen in blue. A frequent question we get is, why don't I have an edit button after creating a response? So if you're logged into the RFX and you've clicked on your response number at the top of the screen in blue, it should give you the edit button. So I'm in the RFX, but I can't see all of the information that is supposed to be on the page, or I'm getting a half blank blue screen. So check your browser. LeGov does not support Chrome, Safari, or Edge. The best browser to use is the Internet Explorer. It's highly recommended to use a desktop computer or a laptop and not a notebook or tablet. So if you're in the response and you're getting a red error saying, please read the notice and accept the terms, you must check that agree box on the terms and conditions before you can submit your bid response. So I'm logged into the response, but everything is grayed out and I cannot make any changes. So if you see that everything's grayed out, make sure to click the edit button at the top. Where do I attach my attachments for the bid? So once you've created a response and you're in the edit mode, you're going to click on the notes and attachments. That's where you'll upload any documents and attachments that you wish to submit with your bid. So you're getting 4 hard stop errors when trying to submit your bid that talks about attributes. We've covered this earlier, but this is when you receive the 4 hard stops. It's because the 4 mandatory questions have not been answered. These are again found under RFX information on the questions tab. And remember, you must be logged into your response and in the edit mode to answer these questions. So it says there should be 4 questions to answer, but you only see 3 or something else is missing from the screen. If you right-clicked on anything, you may have accidentally hidden some of the information on the screen. So you're going to want to right-click on the area that the missing information should be. Click Invisible Element and then Restore, and all of the 4 questions should appear. So one question we get pretty frequently is, how do I know if my bid has been submitted? So when you submit your response, you will receive a message at the top of the screen that says response submitted successfully. Remember, if you log back in later and you click on the response number, you will see a status at the top which will state if your response was submitted or if it is in a saved status. Your bid must say submitted or it will not be accepted. So can I revise my online bid once it has been submitted? Yes. Log back into the RFX and open your response, click the edit button, make all your needed changes, but be sure to click submit again. If you do not resubmit your response before the bid opening date, it will not be accepted. Can I delete or withdraw an online bid after it has been submitted? Yes. Again, log back into the RFX, open your response, click on edit, and withdraw at the top. So if you received an email notification that an addendum was done, however, you don't see where the attachments are that the bid mentions that need to be returned with the bid, when an addendum is done, the buyer selects for the attachments to be visible internally only, meaning only to OSP, so that they will not repost to LAPAC unless the addendum is actually changing one of the attachments. So reposting them would be a duplication, which would get really confusing. You can always return to LAPAC to view and print out the attachments that were mentioned in the bid addendum.
So now that you know how to submit a bid in a number of ways, let's briefly discuss bid openings. Well, ever since COVID, we've moved from in-person bid openings to Zoom. This actually means that more vendors can attend bid openings since you do not have to physically travel to our building to attend. The link to access the bid opening Zoom session is on the first or second page of the RFX. You will have access to live video and audio of the bids being opened and read aloud, and this link will become active 5 minutes prior to the bid opening time. Well, we've covered all the different ways to submit a bid and how to attend a bid opening. So now let's take a moment to mention some of the most common mistakes that vendors make when submitting a bid that ends up causing their bid to be disqualified. First is no signature on a bid. We have to have the bid signed. The bid is not received on time. Again, there's no exceptions for a late bid. The bid was submitted in an unacceptable format, meaning not using the state's forms. Freight was not included in the bid price. Failure of the bid product or service that was being bid to meet or exceed the bid specifications or the scope of work. And failure to provide the required documentation if it was listed as shall or must. So now, here are some tips for a successful bid. First of all, read everything. It is extremely important to read everything. Make sure to print the entire bid document, including all of the attachments. Don't wait until the last minute. Waiting until the last minute could result in not getting your bid in timely due to unforeseen circumstances. And this includes online bids, as there may be technical difficulties, especially if it's your first time submitting a bid in this manner. Use the state's bid forms. Don't send in a bid on your company quote forms, for example. Sign your bid. Make sure to sign your name in the box provided and print your name in the box to the right. If the bid is over $25,000 or for a contract, make sure that you have signature authority for your company. Check your math. Does your unit price include freight? Is your unit price per the unit of measure requested on the bid? Does your unit price times the quantity equal the extended amount? Include all required documentation. Make sure that all information stating shall be submitted with your bid is included in your bid package. And submit before the bid opening date and time. Keep in mind that bid opening time is in Central Time. And again, we can't say it often enough, late bids are not accepted under any circumstances.
Sometimes when a vendor has a question regarding a bid, they're unsure if they should contact our office or the agency that the bid is actually for. So when OSP is conducting a bid for an agency, you must always contact our office for the following things: specification questions, bid submittal questions, how to submit your bid terms and conditions, and questions regarding the bid opening. While a bid is on the street, the only thing that we will direct you to contact the agency for is regarding job site visits and pre-bid conferences, especially if these are set up on an individual basis and not all at once at a predetermined day and time for everyone. You would also need to contact the agency for delivery questions, invoice and payment, tax-exempt documentation, work hours or job site details. But these would only be applicable after an award is made to your company, not during the bid process. New vendor resources. If you are a new vendor for the state, or even if you have been doing business with the state for a while, but still have some questions or need additional information, our website is an excellent reference source. This is our website address. Once there, you will click on the box that says Vendor Resources. This will take you to a page with a huge amount of information useful to vendors. Here are some examples of the types of information you can find there, such as general frequently asked questions, the LGOV registration frequently asked questions, bidding questions, statewide contracts, vendor forms such as contract usage reports, assignment of contracts, corporate name change, W-9 tax ID forms. There are many useful links such as the LGOV registration and help scripts, the commodity code listing, the LPAC link to all the bids, ECAT, Hudson and vet information, unit of measure listings, state regional maps. There's also state agency listings and political subdivision agency listings. The training catalog has how to do business with the state of Louisiana, how to respond to an ITB, how to respond to an RFP, and the LED Small Business Services. There's a great deal more information. We've just touched on the highlights here. All vendors should take the time to visit our website and browse through the information listed there. That brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope that you found it useful and informative. We'll now take some time to answer any questions. If at any time you do require additional assistance, you can always reach out to our office by calling our main phone number here or by sending an email to our vendor help desk.
Okay, the first question we have, for online bids, if I have a second or alternate, would I just use a different bid response number?
Yes. If you're submitting an alternate bid, you would create a new bid response.
Okay. We had several questions, comments about this. Internet Explorer being phased out by Microsoft. Many companies have prohibited its use over security concerns. It has been discontinued on many Microsoft machines. How are you going to address this? Are there any other browsers that can be used with LPAC?
We are looking at many different options on how that is going to come across. So more information should be coming out shortly.
Yeah, that's being addressed by our IT division, so we're waiting to hear from them about what we're going to do with that going forward.
Okay, if we do not resubmit the new bid before the bid time, will the original bid be accepted since the vendor was trying to edit it?
If you're editing your bid response, it's gonna be in a saved status. In order for your bid to be responsive, it has to be at a submitted status.
Okay, what unit of measure is appropriate for a software as a service? Well, I guess this is two questions, so go with that one first.
I'm sorry, say that again?
What unit of measure is appropriate for a software as a service?
Well, you would use whatever unit of measure is listed on the bid document. So it's, however that would be bid out. It could be by the hour, it could be by the job. Just, you would go with whatever's listed on the bid itself.
Right, it could also be a monthly service for software or even an annual fee. So it would be the bid's unit of measure would be 1 year.
Okay, next question. How do I add a person with signature authority in the online portal?
You would add that on your vendor registration.
We will have another presentation for that, I believe, tomorrow, where they're gonna do a live walkthrough of how you can do all of that as well. I have several questions about the PowerPoint. Yes, the PowerPoint and the recordings will be posted to the website after all of the trainings have been completed, so by the end of the week for sure. Let's see. Has the competitive sealed bid price requirement changed within the past year? Was it once $15,000?
No.
It's been $25,000 for quite a few years.
Okay, next question. Will any tax schedules be included in the instructions for bidding?
Tax schedules, no. All taxes must be included in your bid prices. Like any taxes that you are responsible for paying, like sales tax for raw materials, for example, that has to be included in your price that you put in your bid, because you cannot add any additional taxes to your invoice or to the bid.
Okay, will we be notified when we are not awarded a bid?
No, it's, if you want to see who was awarded a bid, you would go look on the PAC. We only notify the successful vendors.
So when you say LeGov registration, is that the same as SAM?
No, that is not the same.
Okay, if someone isn't able to attend the bid opening Zoom meeting, will a bid tabulation be posted?
The bid tab is not posted. You can request a copy of the bid tab.
Right, only the successful awarded information is posted to LePAC. For a detailed bid tab, you have to contact the individual buyer.
How do I find a specific RFX for receipt of bid notices?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
Christy, if you could type exactly what you're talking about in the Q&A. We have another question. If we are already a supplier to the state and there are no changes to our current bid pricing for next year, do we need to resubmit a bid anyway?
Yes, you will need to submit a response to all bids that are posted.
Okay, can we ask for a debrief if not awarded the bid?
Yes.
If by debrief you mean a copy of the bid tabulation, yes.
So Chrissy, she specified the category or service provided by our company. Specific. Chrissy, are you referring to the commodity codes that your company is signed up to receive? I'm not sure understanding.
If you mean that if you see
Or
a
how do you
bid
search
that's
it? Maybe that's what she
posted
means.
and you want to bid on it, you would just go to LePAC and click on it and print it out and submit it, or submit it online. You don't have to, in other words, you don't have to be receiving the email notification for it. If you just go out to our website and you see a bid that you're interested in, you can bid on that.
I'm not seeing any more questions. Does anybody have anything else? I'll give you a couple of minutes. Okay, please characterize what level of detail is read for each bid at the bid opening during the Zooms.
pricing and vendor name. Like, they don't go into specifications or anything like that. They just read the prices.
That's all I'm seeing.
All right. Well, we thank you all very much for attending, and again, we appreciate your interest in doing business with the state of Louisiana. We hope you found the presentation useful and informative.